I live in Thailand, but not as an English teacher, NGO worker, or professional expat of any kind. I'm a local. I live here. But I feel like I should let you foreigners know about what I've encountered last weekend. I know you foreigners don't normally believe in the supernatural, but I believe this subreddit is different. People come here to listen to extraordinary accounts because it's all true, right? So please, listen to my story. This knowledge may very well save your life the next time you visit Thailand. I lurk on Reddit because it entertains me to read about other parts of the world. I am just an office worker, living in the capital city of Bangkok, wearing a tie, working on Excel, always being scolded by my American boss. But my home is in the rural countryside. Lots of green paddy fields and sugar palms in the distance, with the backdrop of grey hills. It is the soothing side of my childhood. I was raised there by my parents, who are rice farmers. I used to bring their buffaloes to graze in the fields, just so I could doze all day on its sturdy back. It is the place of my nostalgia. As an office worker, I try to visit my parents as often as I can because they're old now, much too old for farm work. But still, they wouldn't lay their hands. Imagine if you're 60, but have to hunch over the field under a scorching sun to plant the rice stalks all day from dawn until dusk. Anyway, I visit just so I can bring some joy to their hearts and hand them a little souvenir from the city. Usually, it's a little bit of money I can spare after paying for my rent. But when I'm running short, I would buy them some American sweets or cookies that I'm sure they've never tasted before. Sorry for the diversion. Back on topic. So, it is the past weekend that things become strange and terrifying. I could barely believe it if it hadn't happened to myself. If my uncle or auntie from the village told me that they'd seen what I'd seen, I would nod politely and secretly deride them for their superstition. But now that it's happened to myself, I don't know what I believe. Last Saturday, I planned to visit my parents early in the morning, but my boss told me that he needs to have his PowerPoint done by 3 p.m. Just perfect. It would take me 5 hours to travel from Bangkok to my hometown by train, and the last one leaves at 2 p.m. So I went into the office and I worked like I never did before. I skipped lunch and churned out the PowerPoint and immediately rushed to the train station. I barely made it in time to board the train. However, that means that I will have to walk to my parents' home when it's dark. That makes me nervous. It is known that no one should walk around after dark in my village. Now, before you criticize me, I am not a superstitious man. I'm a city dweller, an office worker, a man of science. I am more scared of physical threats, like being mugged or murdered, even if it is unlikely to happen in the lonely, quiet track to my parents' house. The nervousness comes from my upbringing. In my village, and many others in Thailand, we believe in folk tales and ghosts. Instead of a doctor, my parents would bring me to a shaman whenever I'm ill. When I was suffering from dengue fever, at the 13th year of my life, the old crone of a shaman had crouched over me with her teeth stained black from betel nuts breathing over me with a sickly, sweet stench. She then declared that I was plagued by a malevolent ghost who would soon kill me if it wasn't appeased. My parents immediately cooked up a feast and brought the offerings to pray before the local banyan tree, lighting candles and asking monks to perform a prayer service. They said that cured me and was the reason I'm alive today. Of course, I don't believe them now. I know that dengue fever is caused by a virus transmitted by a mosquito. But still, once you are raised in that kind of belief, it is hard to shake it off. All throughout the slow trudging train journey, then the bus journey on the winding road through the darkening countryside, I couldn't find a comfortable seat. I kept fidgeting, shifting around, checking my phones over and over. I told my parents that I would arrive late, and they told me that it might be better if I moved my visit to the next weekend. I then told them I'm already on the train, and they told me that it's better if I spend the night at the train station. I grunted and didn't reply. I was determined to make the journey that very night. I wanted to surprise them. I wanted to prove the village wrong. I was determined to visit them and prove the village belief was outdated, to make a difference with my superior beliefs from the city. Looking back, I realize now that I was just using those excuses to calm my fears. Because when I got off the bus around 8 p.m. and saw that track leading through the paddy fields towards my parents' house in the darkness, all my reasons became flimsy and fragile. We had streetlights only on the main road, but nothing on the minor trails. I felt a childhood fear tugging at my heart. Why didn't I listen to my parents, I thought. Without thinking, I picked up my phone to call them again, but there was no signal, not even a single bar. Usually, I would get 3G internet, even when I'm out here. I blame the signal failure. We get plenty of those. Cicadas were chirping, and insects began to gather around me, so I couldn't just stand out here to be a sitting blood tank. So, gripping the talisman around my neck, I went off the dark trail that I would normally be so familiar of, that would remind me of home. It didn't feel that way now. That was when I realized that I've never wandered out here before in my life. The 1 kilometer walk to the house never seemed so long before, and I felt like a little boy once more. The trail was between 2 paddy fields, each locked in a low level of water to help rice grow, and the first 100 meters was easy enough because the street lamps still illuminated the way. But beyond that, I had to use the torchlight from my phone to light the path in front of me, just in case there were snakes or scorpions. A whistling wind blew across the farm, and I shivered at the sound. I crept along through the narrow trail until I saw the shadow of 3 sugar palms on my right, near the halfway point. I sighed and smiled a little smile, beginning to feel foolish for being so afraid. Just as I was easing the grip on my talisman, the world was plunged into darkness. The street lamps were all extinguished. Power cuts were common in rural Thailand, but my heart froze, holding my breath in my chest. There was only my phone torch left in front of me, and the moon and stars that offered too little light for my city dweller's eyes. I looked around wildly, throwing my torchlight everywhere, and an old prayer chant came naturally to my lips. That was when I remembered there should only be 2 sugar palms here, not 3. I shone my light there and found 2 trees. I heard a plop, a dipping sound in the paddy field behind me, and spun around. I saw 2 long stalks of legs. I looked up to a pale, naked, emaciated body and arms as thin as chopsticks. I could not scream. My prayer stiffened on my lips, and I fell into the muddy paddy field. I dropped my phone. It leaned down, long, spidery legs folding, and the face came into the beam of my phone's torchlight. Its eyes were pale, as though blind, wispy hair, and its horrible, horrible mouth had shrunken into a tiny round hole, smaller than my finger. It wheezed air through the hole in a shrill whistle and seemed to speak. When I couldn't reply, huddled in trembling silence, it whistled again, more shrilly, a tortured tone, and brought up 2 white hands as big as palm fronds. It made a Y gesture, putting hands together in a prayer that we Thai people are famous for. The sign meant greeting, thanking, or begging. I knew what it wanted. An old folklore was drilled deeper into me than the constructs of modern-day society. But I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even control my bladder or utter a prayer. Its expression changed, and the pale eyes grew bloodshot, and suddenly, the whistling sound stopped. Out of the hole of its mouth, a long, red tongue rolled out and never seemed to end until it was as long as my arm, then even longer. Bile rose to my throat and I wanted to vomit, but that physical, bodily reaction woke me up from my paralysis and I finally screamed. I nodded furiously. I put my hands together to wire it return, and words came blurting out of my soul. I promised it a feast. I told it that it would never starve again. I swore that monks would bless its soul so it would no longer suffer. The tongue stopped extending and finally retracted. Its hollow eyes met me for a moment and finally stood up on those spindly legs and swayed off into the darkness, the plopping sounds fading, and were soon gone. I stayed where I was, soaked among the rice stalks. I didn't know how long I stayed there, but when the street lamps finally came back, I scrambled to my feet, grabbed my phone, and sprinted to my parents' home. According to myth, what I had seen was a lost soul. It would roam the spirit lands, forever hungry because its mouth was too small to eat anything. So on Sunday, I immediately went to the temple to pray to alleviate its suffering, and I brought noodles as offerings, placed before the 2 sugar palm trees near my parents' home. The noodles should fit in its tiny mouth. I'm back in Bangkok now, and I begin to wonder what would have happened if I didn't know of the ghost or couldn't remember the village's teachings. It would have killed me, there's no doubt, to drain my blood, open my guts, and suck my intestines. So here is my warning to you, traveling foreigners coming to Thailand. I know you like to travel to rural parts of Thailand for an exotic, cultural experience. But please remember that these are obscure areas, cut off from the wider world. Whenever you happen to meet a ghost, pray for it, give it offerings, be more open-minded. Do not wear your rationality as a token of pride. There are many things that you don't understand in this world, beyond the scope of cold hard science. Don't be arrogant. Listen to villagers and respect their ways. Because superstition, it might just save your life, like it saved mine.